conflict of the definition of the maximum of the symbol.
Right.
Right. And then so this would then require you, because everybody is going to have an issue in the matrix with what you're doing as you're pushing through the matrix. So there's going to be people that it's kind of like that whole thing where they're trying to find something wrong with you. And people, to me, I'll be laughing at them because they don't understand I spend all day doing that, trying to find something wrong with me. So I'm like, yeah, help me, because I want to make sure that if there's anything out of alignment, that we got that thing in alignment, because that's how I know I stay in tune and I can keep receiving. So that's why when the transmission come in, because I'm going through my process through of healing, right? But I've learned to stop killing. I've learned how powerful that I can be when I really don't like something or someone or even whole nations. Because how powerful are you really? And that's why most people don't have any power, because if they get some power, they would just destroy us all.
Yeah.
Because we didn't bring them sandwiches or something, something petty. Like we act like we're not coming off of a clear past where people have had issues with power. They get a little bit of stuff and they're already trying to boss up over everybody. This is not the guy that you give control of the entire tribe to, right? So we have a situation because, see, in many ways, the people the beings that are lording over the reality, which are like dogs, they're like in themselves like what they call the master race. And a master race is more like how a dog will kind of corral sheep and corral goats. So it's not like it's smarter than the sheep or the goat. It just has a different demeanor and a way to corral and control. So you can see how genetically what's happening is that when you do get deep into the netherworld, because you were beginning this build today with reading off what is incorporated in the Isles of Osiris, which is basically where your heart is about to be raided and that your organs are going to come and testify against you. So these organs, which are the seven, right? They in themselves, they call themselves the archons. Okay, because they're the organs, right? And these systems themselves are in agreement. They agreed on Mount Harmon, which is where we get the word harmony from. And they agreed to do this thing. And what that means is that just how your heart and your lungs and your spleen and your kidney, and they all do different things, they all play a different tone or a different vibration, but they all work together to accomplish the great work, which is actually bringing you back to life from the Isles of the Dead, from the netherworld. Now, the netherworld was already known from deep times before the sun got here. That's why it says that the sun or the spirit itself was hovering over the waters of the deep. So the waters were already there. And in those waters, there was degrees in the netherworld. So these beings, what you would say is semi-aquatic, you would say them amphibian, you would say them even reptilian, also very vast, because generally when you're in a very large space and gravity is not interacting on you, you get big. Just like when you put certain fish in a bigger fish tank, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so they get as big as a fish tank. Nobody has traversed the ocean because it's a galactic thing, like what you would call like a galactic law. Right. The cutoff is at the shore. And then when you get on the ocean, you're supposed to be a sovereign, because if you're on the water and you don't know how to produce what it is that you need, then you'll die out there. Also, you need to know how to navigate, because you'll get lost out there. So the ocean is the real outer space, okay? But the deep in itself and the entities in which that live in the deep, the way a person ends up arriving there is when the debts from their lives, where they're asking for a variety of things, and they're saying that they're willing to give something to receive that. So this is basically even the root itself of what we call magic, which is asking entities for things. This is why in the religion, which is the root of a lot of this, people are constantly asking this God for things, assuming that in the event that they receive it, that it doesn't want anything back. And in addition to that, they never catch that it's only until they're very fervent about asking what they need do they get it. And it's because it's with their own energy. That if you entreated for something, meaning you wanted something so bad that you just really sent out a vibration that I wanted, the real want, not the, the real need. It gets into needs, right? When you can send out that kind of frequency, it'll happen because it happens on your own power. But many people, they subscribe partners, as it's called. They basically say, well, it was because of Jesus that I got this car. When really much of everything that was conducted, if not everything that was conducted to receive that, was done from the person's own energy. But there's a broker there. I got to get some water here in a minute. Now, this broker.
Take your time, brother. Take your time.
Because this is important. This broker, because it's what happened to the spiritual system. These brokers are like now the ones that are actually mastering these contracts and signing these contracts and creating these contracts, because what they do is they get between a person and their energy, basically. Your highest level or higher self, they kind of get in between you and your higher self, and they try to broker a deal between you and your higher self. Believe it or not, as silly as it sounds, it even sounds more silly when you imagine that we fall for it. And humanity will fall for giving their energy away to something else to receive something that will be less valuable than the value of the energy that they gave. So it's a bad deal. And that's really what it becomes to actually be a sovereign, is that you actually have to learn how to come into your life and basically be the Lord and the master of your life and stop subscribing to entities or idols. Now, this is interesting because there's a lot of idolization. But the reason why idolization to a god is forbidden is because it basically makes you send all your energy to something else. And if you're not familiar with what that is, we are supposed to be familiar with our ancestors, right? So when the connection with our ancestors is severed, we don't have to go to anything external to connect that, to reconnect that. We don't ever even seen the real spiritual plane before, right? So in conclusion, I want to also say that the deep level of knowledge here is that everything is really about your foundation. You have to have the courage to go back in if you need to rework your foundation and get on something solid. And the reason is because obviously when you even grow up in dogmas or you have things happen to you when you're younger, you base everything that you're experiencing on the world from those dogmas. So everything goes into that, like I said, angel or devil category when you have a heavy Christian religion programming sitting under the layer of your metaphysics. You see what I mean? And then so sometimes you got to go back and watch your consciousness and watch your mind and see how much of that residue is still left that is allowing you to go on with certain absurdities that is short-circuiting your very energy. In order to have access to the complete cosmos, you must have a pass. The way that you get a pass through the cosmos is that you actually will help all of the children. You don't care what color they are, any of that you will help the children as if they're your own. Because see, what a bad judge does is we got bad judges in the world. They judge the children and like they're not theirs. Like they'll give a young cat 20 years, but he'll never give his son 20 years. So he's not treating that child like it's his child. Because he'd be like trying to rehabilitate his son and all that kind of stuff. So our hard north is always to let us know that we are basically upholding the children for real. And we don't care what color those children are. Because every being coming into this space is to be given the proper opportunity to travel, to not only explore, meaning to go out into the reality and to be mentored by the reality, but also to go into that, into the internal. The internal and to be able to, as we call it, the innerverse, and to be able to explore themselves within. So now, we kind of we're reaching that peak point. So what are we going to taper off into?
Man, listen, Sevan, man, I'm going to close it out. I want to thank you. I want to get you back on here in January though, my brother. Yes. We talked about January, and I know you want to, as far as the ads, and you got amazing stuff going on. But I want to get you back on here in January, and we could take some Q&A from the people, and as well as continue to build. But man, this was legendary tonight, my brother.
Man,
This
that
was
would be lovely. Like we could just make, that next engagement just for the people. We come right in, because we could go anywhere with this. But I trust that, that what was transmitted today, not only was pleasing to the soul, that lets us understand that there's other passageways, that to ourselves to clear certain things up, like to really, again, see this organism and how it all is us, even the planet that we on. So, to also realize that, even bad neighborhoods are dirty ley lines. Right. And you can, if you knew how to work the ley lines inside of your own body, which were the nadis, and clear them up, you can go right into a neighborhood and clear up the neighborhood on a level of geoenergetics, meaning that you know how to put certain things in the neighborhood that shift and open up the energy, like you're doing acupuncture or acupressure in the neighborhood. Right. But see, what happens again is the reason why this sanctum is generally closed is if a person actually does have some hatred in their heart. And that's why when you see the mother, what the mother does is the mother will help a sick child.
She'll help anybody
without even thinking about getting sick.
Father be like, what the hell you doing?
Exactly. Father be like, yo, I'm going to be over here because I got to go to work tomorrow and I can't get sick. You see what I mean? But mother be there. And so in that embodiment of just being in it, like, look, I don't know what happened to your skin, but I'm in it with you. You see what I mean? It's just like really sojourning, because I do know that in many ways, again, we're sharing something, but somebody is trying to cure themselves consistently off of somebody else. And that's what's become the predatory nature in the reality, right? Is because it's like a relationship. I'll close down with this. Imagine a relationship where two people both need the same thing, but neither one of them can provide it. And they keep trying to get it from each other. You see what I mean? And then so this creates like a friction. And this is what be happening is that if you can't get the cycle of caring and love going on and get the whole motor rolling again, that thing actually does really dry out, but it hits another direction. It doesn't end. It starts going into regret. It starts going into bitterness. This is the shed. You see what I mean? And that's why they call that God. The God of the Old Testament is named Shaddai. He's a shed. He's even got pictures and shit. And it's just like the antithesis side. And that's what I wanted to finish off talking about the ancestors. The ancestors knew that there was that's why they called it pantheism, because it was all of the movements of the sun. So they saw that when the sun went down and beneath the world, that it was going in the netherworld, that you needed to see the soul like that. And when the sun took on its netherworld clothing, it became Set. Sunset.
Sunset.
Okay. And then when Set ruled the night, and Set was built to rule the night. So, because the night was like a different thing. It seems like the night it was like they wasn't sweet. It wasn't nothing sweet down there. And that's what I was saying. It's like, it's a different level of how things are functioning. And when you talk about like when we've graduated so far in our consciousness, and we've already we come forth by day. So we already went through that experience. And it's like now somebody's trying to put us back into that darkness. And it's like, that's why we got to keep shining on this, man. And we got to shine so much that it actually does really affect, because, stars transfer information. It starts affecting those that are around us, and we're just sending that harmonic to them. And then when that happens, what their body would be doing is their body is responding. So it's like when you're around the body, when you're around another person, first of all, what happens with frequencies is the strongest frequency wins. We can see this in audio, video. You do music, so you can watch how frequencies will dominate another frequency. So healers, what they come in with is this balanced frequency that is so strong, they don't really have to say anything. That's why I say the greatest teachers don't need to tell everybody anything when they're teaching somebody, because they know they become top, but they don't enter into that teaching sanctum because it's like an energy that is around that person. And so, yeah, let us be more grateful in the life that we can even have these energies. At the end of the day, one of the things that I was noticing is when I do get a chance to sit down and breathe and feel my body and feel my connection with myself, and it feels so good, I just even sit in that moment and be like, man, it's crazy that you can even do this. And I want to make everybody know that, or let's make sure that everybody knows that precious gift that you can have when you sit with yourself and you get really calm and you start taking some breaths, especially if you know whole body breathing. And you start feeling good and you start feeling that energy coming up and that kundalini moving through the body. Remember, everybody can't do that. It's an extremely powerful gift to be able to feel good, right? So You know, let's give thanks
Hey,
for
hey,
that.
Seven. Do you have a Cash App? They're asking if you have a Cash App. Do you have?
I don't, man. I haven't been on any of these new
Okay.
systems. Like I got a little bit with Bitcoin. Everybody, if you want to assist anything with Secret Energy, because we're always deploying stuff, you could go to the site and we got input output. Meaning, so if you don't have anything, we got you. Like we really do have a way to put you on the fast track, and that's why I'm inventing stuff. Because I'm able to put it into the affiliation, and then you're able to just send a link to it. And you don't got to even send a link to the things that are on the site. You can just send a link to knowledge or information that is on the site. So we created basically a system where when you're sharing this knowledge, if somebody comes to the website and then they make a transaction because they were looking at that knowledge, you should get some money for that because you were responsible for them coming to the site. And so that's how the site is designed. It's designed for us all to create something and to be able to sustain ourselves. And we got something new coming. You can find it at dreamengine.ai. And it's a whole different level. It's going to bring value into every single thing that you're doing. So just like you were saying, yo, shoot me them thumbnails. Yeah. Even that, like from even restylizing just you. I feel like that what happens for us is that we seldom see ourselves stylized as the hero. You see what I mean? And so there is a part of us, you know, some people are like, oh, that's egotistical, but there's a part of you that you have an aesthetic. This is the thing that I wanted to finish off with here. You have an aesthetic, you have a pattern. And this is why in ancient times, every tribe had a special pattern, right? Mm-hmm. You remember that, right? Everybody got a pattern, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you're born, they give you this pattern. It's not just a name, they give you a pattern because this is your aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And generally, this is like an easy way for you to always go home. Because as an explorer, you leave from somewhere. You're not always out. You got a home. Mm-hmm. And so to get back to your home, you know your pattern, so you know your direction home. And so what I find is that we should explore art more because there's times, and it's already been happening to me, where I'll see a certain image and it will remind me of where I am and where I'm from. And it's like, right. it's a different way of looking. It's the same thing we were talking about with geometry. It's like it triggers something that's coming from the inside out rather than the outside in, something that you didn't have to like learn with knowledge. And now you recognize it, but something that you always knew that you haven't seen in a long time. And that's the beauty of, again, where we're at now and what we're doing now, going to be doing in January in Dream Engine, is that we're able to realize a different reality for ourselves for real. So that way, when you start to even, because English is, you know, I downplay it a little bit today because it can get quite wicked. But the reality is that it is also a very powerful language. So when you know how to describe certain things like hyper ornate, you know, words that we often don't really use, when we don't have words to really describe what we really want to receive in life, we don't have necessarily the energies or the characters to actually allow us to receive it. So I found that text to image is in itself also very educational in letting us realize why the way that we form our words together don't exactly end up equaling the manifestations that we're looking for. And how to actually get those words that do allow you to manifest what you're looking for. And then even more importantly, allow you to see a picture of it. Because once you get a picture of it, you can see if is that really where I'm at? And this takes just only a little bit of time. And so this is the kind of stuff that Dream Engine does. And I'm super excited to get into that, because I can't say after 14 years of just all out occult knowledge, you know, I am ready to do something that also is going to be equally as appealing for especially the children, you know, like illustration, creating like books and movies and things like that. So that, because we write the story for them.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? So, you know, do your best, be creative. So thank you so much, Rich. I also wanted to say, you know, it's been real, like, as I said earlier in building with you, and you also mentioned that, you know, it's been years for us, like over a decade. Yeah. And, you know, watching our own growth, like, you know, I remember the beginning. I remember you was like I used to, you remember on Sesame Street where they had the lady with the socks and you never see her face? He was like, yo, you never see the lady's face, right? You was like, it's like, who is that behind the guy, right? Like, yo. And I always felt that was so honorable. Yeah. You see what I mean? Because it wasn't even that's like the first sign of it. And that's why I say, for me, when I decide initially that a person is on the level, they're always on the level with me. I never change it because I never know what reality I may end up in. Maybe a day they do something crazy. And I'm like, but if I've already agreed, I'm like, that person's on the level. So I just want to, you know, thank you for always holding the space and giving the opportunity for so many powerful brothers to come through, Billy and Rod and Be Serious. And, this is, these are very powerful, enlightened brothers, Strayhorn. All of these beings are in themselves unique keys that unlock very special doors. Yeah. And so that's the other thing that I know that we have to be aware of in this whole field of consciousness, is that it's not that we're disagreeing at all. We're actually servicing the being that is on that dimension that only believes that. And technically, you really want to get to a point where it's like that's why I say I don't want to teach second grade all my whole life, because I will start adapting the mindset of a second grader. So I want to level up too. And in order for me to do that, I need to know how to get unstuck. Right. Indeed. And so that means that I can't really hold to anything that somebody says that I am or what I'm supposed to be. I need to look at the whole picture and be like, okay, now I see the bigger thing. And so, I hope I can share that with everybody. Wholeness. Indeed.
I appreciate the way you ended the live, when you talked about the English language and certain things and pictures resonating with us. One of the things, just to say this real quick, as far as the English language, one of the letters that just send me somewhere in my mind to some type of ancient memory, when I see XYZ, there's something about the letters X, Y, and Z. Something about the last 3 letters of the alphabet, they send me somewhere ancient where I could just write Z on a piece of paper and zone out and look at Z, or write X, zone out, or write Y and zone out. Those 3 letters allow me to really zone out and just tap into something cosmic. Yes. So I definitely feel what you're saying, my brother. I thank you once again. I thank everybody for tuning in.
I look forward to the days that we're able to open up the sanctums, have this knowledge like itemized with pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Got folks coming in at level 1 rather than level 10 right away, because that's where we're at. You know what I mean? And they're enjoying it. It's gamified, so they're earning as they go.